Hey everybody, welcome to our asynchronous session, spreading the word about AT and UDL. Hello there.
Hey folks, I'm Jennifer Edge Savage. Welcome to our recap of spreading the word about AT and UDL, going way back to season one, talking about how it all began.
Going back to the beginning, we're going to hit you with some highlights of how it went. Uh, Maybe throw in some comments about things we've done since then, because we've run this class a couple other times since. So kind of a back to the beginning and then a forward to the future, if you will, to things that we did after that.
That's
So we're,
true. We're on like season 4 or 5 now, I think, and we have had we had a brief hiatus we might share later, but yeah, we've constantly reflecting on our practices and thinking about what can we include next. But we've had several now successful runs of this model, so we're happy to share it.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want the slides, obviously you're looking at the recording now, so you can just follow along with us if you'd like. But if you want to go back to the slides, there they are, is a bit.ly, bit.ly/ATUDL dash UDLIRN 20. That'll get you to the slides with all of this incredibly important information in there. So we're happy to share that stuff with you as we go through. We'll start with a question, as Dwight Schrute might throw out there. Question.
My own. So our educators actually prepared to think with an ATUDL lens. And how do you introduce these concepts to educators who may not be feeling so great about the technology? And how do you assure that there's actually some practical application that they just don't run through with a sit and get?
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is that I think that first bullet really gives us a lot to kind of chew on, because we had to get people proficient with tech potentially before we could even get them interested in UDL and AT and get them to be proficient there. So are they ready to think this way?
And super talented educators who are hiding and pretending they know how to do some basic things and really trying to help them start accepting that we don't know everything either, and modeling that kind of failure and that exploration to figure things out,
Yeah.
to create this mindset where that's okay.
And
So we
so
had to create a safe environment for that.
exactly. And so the question leads us to the answer, which was yes, they can be. If you think about how it's presented to them. And kind of the philosophy we took is what's mentioned there. Blended, long-term, focuses on learning and application of information and building a community to share. And I think that's kind of nutshelling what this really looked like.
And I think the community was true and really helping the education professionals we were working with really tease out that you can get support beyond your classroom and beyond your four walls. You're not alone. You're not the only one struggling. You're not the only one figuring this out. You need to find your peep so you can support yourself. So it's really about spreading the word's really true, because we want to help them feel better and then bring folks along.
Yeah, for sure. And so maybe you want to know who we are, since we just said hello and then just kind of blew right past it. Jen and I have agreed we're just going to do this as a conversation. If we had seen you in person, I feel like this is probably almost exactly how it would have went down anyway.
Exactly true. I
Except,
agree.
yeah, the two of us would have been in the same room doing this with you, and so you're probably getting the same exact experience, except
And,
we're in two little talking head boxes versus one. Um,
and since this was a super Star Wars year,
why
between the
not?
last movie and Mandalorian, we forced a lot of these lightsaber things on all of our
Yes.
systems.
And we will randomly force in ridiculous cartoons as we move through this for you, because it makes us smile, and that's really all that matters at this point. It's getting us through.
Usually with humor, you feel safer. So you
Right.
can talk about difficult things and help figure them out.
Exactly.
So, okay, this one's about me. So I'm Jennifer Edge Savage. I'm actually an occupational therapist and an assistive technology specialist. And I wear many hats, just like Mike does. So I've been an AT consultant in private practice. I've been a professor at Simmons University since 2004 in their assistive technology program, as well as their teacher preparation program. I also get to work with the amazing folks with Saltillo, or PRC Saltillo, as an AT consultant, because I decided I didn't know enough about AAC and I had to learn more. I'm past president of ISTE's Inclusive Learning Network, and so delighted to work and continue to work with my colleagues there. And I love this field. We're always looking for new ways to spread the word and figure new things out.
Yeah, for sure.
How's that?
That's awesome. And as Jen said, we both wear many hats. There, I'll throw you a picture of me wearing a hat. There you go. Those pictures just give you a sense of the hats that I wear. I'm also an independent consultant. And so I wear that hat mostly. And so I go out and I work from my home base in New Jersey, which quite honestly is where I'm working from all the time now. But in a normal time, I would be flying around the country working with teams at an organization level, a district level, a state level. So depending on the goal of the activity, to help them work to build capacity, to provide support in the areas of AT and UDL. And so that's kind of what I do. The other main hat that I wear is working as the director of the New Jersey Assistive Technology Act project, which is called ATAC, ATAC. And with that, I coordinate our services across the state to make sure that people have access to assistive technology and know how to use it in order to be successful. So that's kind of the two big hats I wear. And then you see a bunch of little hats kind of mixed in there of all the different activities. So that's us. Why are you muted? I was like, what are you doing? I thought Jen was bailing out on me already. I thought that was it. You what?
I was giving you the stage.
Oh, I don't need that. It's okay.
Working from home. As you can tell, if you're watching this at a later date, we are in the middle of shutdown, and it's amazing what you can do remotely, right? So we'll see. We'll probably have a cat or something visit. People might be playing, asynchronous bingo with Zoom. We'll see.
Yeah, who knows what'll happen. At some point, my dog will probably start barking in the middle of it, and it's fine. We'll pause the microphone for a second, and we'll keep going. So when we talk about our program, we'll dig into a bunch of the things that we kind of did to create this program, but we'll start with the idea of just our philosophy as we approached this project. And it really was about looking at the interconnectedness of UDL and assistive tech and looking to apply that in order to, and I like some of the words in this bullet really, I wish they were bolded even more, the intentional design for all learners, and then applying assistive tech to support specific learners. So looking at that idea of individualized and then perhaps providing layers of support for everyone as we look at it.
Yeah, and I think both Mike and I kind of come from really firmly grounded in I'll say geeking out about the assistive technology and being in that field. And then early on, embracing this whole UDL framework, or way of thinking, that we can't undrink that Kool-Aid. So it's become kind of a part of the work we've done over the years. And we're always looking at, that bigger UDL umbrella and those AT pieces under it, and the fluidity of that too. So
how things could start in one spot. It's that idea of, I provide an assistive technology support to meet one person's need, but then I look at the way that provides support and say, well, why couldn't I use that for everyone? Why couldn't I incorporate that in learning for all?
And the other side of that too is that synergy of okay, here's these big tools that are being used, or these mainstream technologies, and always looking at the lens ooh, how could that work for my people? Yeah. How could that support my learners who are struggling with certain tasks? And then does it become this assistive technology because it becomes a must-have, right, rather than a cool to have? It's a must-have for some.
Yeah.
So it's a fun place to be.
Yeah, for sure. And if we think about the process piece, Jen and I spend a lot of time with our groups talking
This is your
process.
favorite part.
I was going to say we're two of the few people who, like, I would call that my favorite part too, is the process piece, the bigger picture stuff, the how you make it work. Because a lot of times people want to focus on the stuff. Tell me more about stuff. And it's really not about stuff. It's about what you do with stuff in order for people to be successful. And that's the process piece. If it's assistive technology, it's consideration and implementation and feature matching. If it's UDL, it's those principles of UDL and how you frame the experience for someone. Those are the process pieces. We all know tools come and they go and they disappear. They're free, then they cost money, then they're gone, then they get absorbed in something else.
My first dive into assistive technology, the internet didn't really exist yet.
Me too.
Right? So, it's dating us, but there was no iPads, there was no amazing, Chrome extensions. Like this wasn't there. And seeing that evolve over the years is really amazing. Yeah. And you never get bored in this field. There's always more to learn. But what keeps us grounded is the process doesn't change.
Right.
It's about that student and the environment and the tasks. And tools are super cool and fun to dive into. And you do really need to be aware of the tools, but that's not what's first.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying I don't love tools. I love a good app like anybody else, a good Chrome extension. I look along the top of my screen there. You see, I love a good Chrome extension. But at the same time, there is always that balance of finding that spot, that sweet spot, so that we don't forget about the process piece or we don't minimize the process piece because it's so critical.
And this other piece, like we feel so important to reach our new educators who are before they get out, and getting them prepared and aware of this process and feeling comfortable with tools, because age has nothing to do with comfort with technology. And it doesn't, I work with lots of, 20 somethings going through their teacher prep programs and having no idea what their iPhone can do.
Yeah. That's so true, right? It doesn't matter anymore. People talk about digital natives, and it's just such a ridiculous term because I find that just about anyone, young, old, in between, it doesn't matter. They're good at what they want to be good at.
It's a priority.
And then, we have to find ways to broaden that a bit.
And that other bit too is like so important for existing educators to feel to help break down the fear barriers. Because they are hungry to do more, but it's like, it's new, it's different. We already have so much on our plates. How can we convince them it's nice over here using the technology? It's nice to be thinking about other ways of engaging our learners and doing things in different ways and ripping up that worksheet.
Yeah.
And thinking of new ways to do things.
And also, like Jen said, this idea of the new and the experienced educators, but respecting them all as adult learners. And finding this way to make this practical and meaningful. Those words are critical to this whole thing. And I'm sure whoever's watching this right now, thank you for watching it, first of all. We hope you find something valuable in this because your time is valuable. And any of us, myself included, I will start watching these sessions as they're posted as well, because I want to find things that are valuable to me in order to be a better educator, to be a better professional. And so that value has to be there for people.
Right. And anytime I'm looking at new tools, there's always a student in my head, or an educator in my head, or a parent in my head. Like, I got to make sure they know about this, because I didn't know it then, but I do now. And there's always more things.
It's so true. How many times do I sit somewhere and go, that would be perfect for, and then drop somebody's name in there?
Yep.
This is something I should talk about with a team member that I think of that I'm working with.
And my long reminder list on my phone of the tools to explore is just endless. But every so often I'll just grab one and take a peek.
Yeah, exactly. And because we're all working from home now, my list on my phone has disappeared, and now it's become a list of index cards because I went to the dollar store and got a stack of 200.
Multiple means of representation. I mean, this is my to-do list. I need that and everything that's in my phone because I really love the feel of crossing stuff off.
I can't wait. And you guys will see the note that I have in front of me now. It's to record our session by the
Oh
certain
God,
date.
we're about to check that
And
off.
I'm gonna rip this up as soon as we're done, and I'm gonna be very
Okay.
excited about that. So yeah, finding hitting on what works for people. So we'll dive into it a little bit. Jen and I will have a back and forth. We wish we could have a back and forth with you, but we'll find some ways to facilitate that as we go forward. So this was season 1.
Season 1.
The
And
start of this.
gosh, we need to make sure we cite this source of this. This is one of my favorite versions of this image that everybody who's here knows this image. Right. Season 1.
Season 1. How did it start? Well, here you go. How did it start?
Oh, you didn't put your other emoji. So this
I know. I realized that as I saw it come up. I'm like, I forgot.
I'll tell a little tale. So, I live in Massachusetts, and we have routine grants. Luckily, that come up to provide professional development, and it was always 5 days in a row in the summer. 5 days in a row in the summer for decades.
Right. I hope you like that model because that's the model you kept getting.
Yeah, like, well, maybe we could do this differently. And maybe if I look, I've always in my implementation planning, no matter what head I wear, I'm like, can I just have at least 3 points in time? Can I sandwich them a little bit with this blended face-to-face activities, things to do, ponder, explore, meet them again? What's the next steps? Let's collaboratively decide what it's going to look like, continue the support, the coaching, the facilitation, whatever you want to call it, and then have an end cap of, what do we create? What are your next steps? How are you going to spread the word? Share your stories, student stories, teacher stories, administrative stories. Just let's hear how this makes a difference. And the grant came up, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do it 5 days in a row, and I don't want to do it just in the summer, and I want to do it online too. I want to have asynchronous things they can do, but lots of synchronous time online too, and in person. So I was starting to write the grant, and I got a call. I think I got a call from Mike from New Jersey saying, hey, I'm interested in applying for this grant. What do you know about it? I was like, Mike, I think I know. I don't want to compete with you, and I think we should do this together.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, why compete? If we both have the same philosophy of how to do it, why compete? And I know, I don't know if any of you have been in a 5-day long training. I mean, there's some point in that 5 days, and it's not towards the end. It tends to be towards the beginning or the middle, where you check out. It's it. Your brain's full. You can't get anything else in it. And that other part is when things happen in that kind of condensed time frame, you don't have any time to process that information and apply some of that information and come back and talk about that. So it all becomes theoretical. It's all like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll do that. It becomes your stack of index cards from 5 days, and you go, all right, maybe I'll work on these at some point, or maybe I won't, because I'm going to go back at the end of the 5 days and have to keep working.
And no matter how driven we are, right, there needs to be some sort of external accountability and time to process this, because this is some deep, tough stuff. And there's a lot of different skills we're juggling as we're trying to do this kind of work.
Yeah, and so this first version of it, and to be honest, subsequent seasons of this training happened in 2 spots. And these were Massachusetts-based grants. So one happened in the eastern part, right by Boston. One happened in the western part. And that western piece has moved around a little geographically, but still to the western half of the state, to pull people together. And so here's kind of the newer model of it, of what it looks like.
So we went from like, okay, we don't want to do it a week. We want to spread it out over 7 months, which is an incredible amount of work. I'm just telling you right now. But yeah, so like once they're in our class, they own us, and we're supporting them forever, okay? Yeah. And they're still seeing them on Twitter, occasionally on a Facebook page, wherever they want to reach out. But we spread it over time. And some of the things that I think were helpful too, Department of Ed really did require 100% attendance. Kind of an all or nothing. If you commit, you're committed. And you need to do the work, and you need to visit. And 3 graduate credits were offered too, that they had to pay for, but otherwise the course was absolutely free.
Yeah, so it's free to educators. I like the 100% attendance because it says to them, we think this is important, that you're here for everything. And I like that kind of give and take. Like as a facilitator, I'm committing to be there 100% of the time. I have this expectation that someone on the other side has that same plan to be there for everything. It's all valuable. It all layers on top of each other, right, Jen? It all starts to become interconnected.
It does. And what helps too, by providing, we're so transparent. We share everything. We overshare everything. It's like, what do you need? You can have our files. You can have the slides. You can do this. But also we record everything like crazy so that go back to it when you're ready for it. Did you miss it? Things happen. You can watch this. The exception was the in-person times, that there wasn't a lot of flexibility, but there were very few. There's only 3.
Yeah.
Live times, and everything we do is shared via our website or our Google Classroom, actually both, to make sure wherever folks are going, what they need is there, so it can be viewed or reviewed or shared, to spread the word.
Yeah.
And help things stick.
I think it's great. It was such a good framework. So now this first version of this, Jen, when the heck did we do this? What was it, like 3 years ago? The first version?
More, because we had a hiatus. It might be three or four.
I mean, this is a model that I've gone back to multiple times now, not just in this course, but in other courses I'm doing, because it's just proved to be so valuable, and proved to be such a better way of making things stick. You know, we spend time after time. And if you do a lot of professional development and deliver a lot of professional development, in your mind somewhere is the how do I do this in a way that it sticks with people? Because there's nothing more frustrated than talking to someone and feeling like, oh, this is awesome, this is going to change their practice, and then it doesn't. And sometimes I think that happens from those hit and run trainings. It's a one thing, a 1 day, a half day, a 2 hour, and then never to be followed up on again. Those little quick hits that don't always stick. And so this idea of this 7-month period, these people become friends. These people become a family, a community, to where we still see these people to this day, people from the first one. We see them to this day and can jump right back in. They are part of our virtual PLN. Or our in-person PLN if we happen to be around. Jen's lucky that she's in Massachusetts. Jen, somebody just ran through the door frame. I couldn't resist. It made me laugh. It's so funny. But Jen's in Mass, so she sees a lot of these people. I live in New Jersey, so I don't see them as much, but I do see them occasionally. And it's exciting to have these people in your network now.
And it's pretty exciting too, like all the different ways that we could provide information too, like talking about this face-to-face online, but also a lot of really meaningful hands-on projects. And no, like, here, poke here, what do you want to do? Figure it out. We're here to help you. And we might pretend we don't know how to do something, but we really kind of try to help support folks to get out of their comfort zone and feel like, and empower them. Like, you can figure this out. Somebody along the way told you couldn't.
Yeah.
But you can.
It's a great word, that idea of empowering and meaningful. There are projects that had to be done, but you chose the project. We gave you a framework of what we'd like to see happen, and you decide the path and the end product and what that does, because everybody's is a little different. Everybody's situation's a little different.
And still staying really firm about the goals, and that the competencies or experiences like were really important to have. Yeah. But there could be different ways to get there. Oh, yeah. I didn't even remember.
Look at that. I was like, oh, this is perfect. She's giving me a nice cue as I hit the button here. But thinking about the goals of what we wanted to see them do or be comfortable with, it was a bunch of different pieces. And again, this idea of being 100% attendance, because these things just weave in and out of things. They'd come into a live training day, we'd follow up on a webinar or on a chat on social media or through some other work that they're doing, but we wanted them to know about the laws that apply to the students they might be working with in the systems they are working in. So the laws and the processes, again, that's right at the front because that's how important we think it is. This idea of understanding frameworks, the SET framework, which Jen mentioned, the quiet indicators, thinking about the UDL principles and the pieces that follow along with that, finding ways to make sure they understand foundationally how to provide support to a student, not through stuff. And I don't know how many times I say that in a training. It's not stuff. That stuff doesn't matter. It's this piece that matters.
And those little resources that can help with kind of sussing out what might work for a student and giving it a try.
Yeah.
And we can get stuck, and almost sometimes some folks get stuck in the weeds of the frameworks. Like, there's a balance of having that idea, but then getting in, doing it, figuring out. It's messy work, and it's totally rewarding to figure out.
Right? This idea of that moving from the process to the skill development, and in my mind, one of the most important pieces of all of this, the application of this information.
Right.
Taking all this, taking it from the conversation we have in whatever space that happened, live or online, synchronous or asynchronous, and doing something with it. Going back to where you are and making this work for people.
Like really getting the time to feel more comfortable with the tools and feel like you do it, and then constantly thinking about access and being aware of the resources are there, like the AM Center and Bookshare and all these different digital resources that could support their efforts. And then it's always like shout it at the roof, through the rooftops, like dissemination, share it within your district, share it beyond, get connected. We've got to make some change. And
that's why this is called spreading the word. You're going to learn it, but ultimately our hope is that you will take it and then seed your entire organization with this information. How do you move this forward? How do you become a conduit for everybody else to start to understand this? To different levels and to different in different ways, but ultimately it's that idea of don't become yet another silo. Right. And then we say that all the time. You're not a silo of information. You are disseminating information. How do you do that? What does that look like?
And breaking out of that mindset that you have to be an expert, or that if anybody is, you be expert at learning, I mean, hopefully, right? But expert, especially in a field that's changing constantly, it's okay not to know the answer, but the mindset and the process to try to figure it out. And it's a lot of it's, attitude and having a safety and supportive network to branch out and try to figure this out and have the conversations that need to be had. And usually when there's questions like, well, how did your conversation go with? Right?
Right. What happened? Was there a different way we could have done that? Was there more information people needed? How was that received? We've all been there. We've all been the person that says, wouldn't it be great if we did? And then you add something in. Sometimes people are with you. Sometimes they're maybe not with you. And you have to continue to work that process. Ultimately,
you need to believe in you, right? Like, it's okay. They might not come to the party yet.
But you just
open.
You just keep going, right? You just keep working through it. And so everything we did was kind of this balance between this tightrope walk between frameworks and process and tools.
Right.
Because ultimately, I think most people that signed up for this, I don't want to speak for all of them, but I'm about to. I think most people thought this was about stuff. And so I think a lot of times people come to these kind of things with process as a distant second. Right. And they want to learn, and we talk about this, and Jen and I just had this conversation the other day about how many times do you see these workshops at a conference? It's 60 tools in 60 minutes, right? And people are like sometimes beating the doors down for that session. And ultimately you want to ask why? What are you going to do with any of those tools? And how are you going to use them? What's the process look like behind using them? So finding that balance.
Yeah, and that balance too, when you're firm in the process, like there's a place for that. Okay, I need to hear about more tools. There's a place for that, but they need to land somewhere in a way of thinking about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I have this cool thing. I'm going to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, right? It's I have this cool thing. Now what? Now what do I do with
that to everything?
Yeah, and I think it's really important in thinking about how that lands in a person's kind of framework, in their own framework.
And the perfect question, just as I'm looking at this little, image of an iPad, it's like, I need an app. App for what? For
Right.
reading. What component of
Okay.
reading? Tell me more. Tell me
Yes.
more. Talk about the student. Let's have a conversation. Because what might jump into my mind is a map read is not what they're actually looking for.
Yeah.
Do they need it read to them? Do they need it digital because they can't physically pick it up? What is the for? Is it an audible book? Is it human? Like, there's so many things to think about. And it's like that being grounded in this process of this kind of task analysis is like what's needed. Like, will help. I'll be like, an iPad's amazing. Is the iPad the right tool? Maybe it's not. Maybe a Chromebook's the right tool. What's in the environment? What makes sense? And getting folks to just have the conversation, because it's the more of the conversation, get asked less. Just tell me an app. I just want some cool apps. I'm like, there's lots of cool apps. There's so many cool apps I don't even know about.
Yeah. Right.
I've learned about 24 this week.
Yeah.
With online PD this week.
And ultimately, it always circles back to those questions and those process pieces and what you're trying to do with it. It's never as easy as just tell me an app.
And you can't, and there's a difference. You can't just know all the tools,
Yeah.
but not know all the humans and things that might happen, right? So doing it helps you get better at recognizing what the tools are and not and being afraid to just dive in. I'm happy with 2 tools, but what I need to do is start diving in and getting to know the person and figure out what's needed.
Yeah, for sure. And here's our participants.
Well, there's one of our cute groups. They were so awesome.
Yeah, that was a great group. All our groups have been great. So when they're watching this, you were all awesome. They were all really good. We really enjoyed working with them. But we had to respect them as adults. They were taking time out of their day to do this and to commit to this 100% attendance. And so we had to make sure we provided this training to them in a way that respected them. And look at all those different ways we did things with them.
And, at the same time, some folks, because we're technology focused too, because part of our goal to get rid of that fear as part of this process too, it's like, so you're kind of shying away from ever touching this application. Guess what? I'm going to hang with you. Let's figure it out. We can do it. Because it may not be the comfort zone. It might not be their choice. So there's choice, but also there's like kind of gentle nudging is like, let's choose to learn more and broaden our skills too. And how can I help you do that?
Yeah. And it gives everyone a chance to be the leader of this conversation. And there are times throughout this, from that first time all the way to the last time we just did this, where Jen and I become part of the group. We're just another participant at that point, and someone else is leading. Someone else drives the bus for that moment because they have some expertise and they've kind of built this skill set, and we're just the same as everyone else. I mean, I want to learn something just like everybody else.
And for me, I don't like when the technology fails. It still causes some anxiety. You're going to figure it out. But I love it for them. I don't like it for me, but I love it when things don't work. We model failure. We can figure this out, and it's never all going to be perfect. And we can do this, and we'll learn. We learn from the mistakes and realize, I am going to require a password next time.
Right. Exactly.
Or I'm going to write that down, or whatever it might be.
So true. And so we tried to find this kind of varied way to deliver this information. There was some explicit instruction that happened,
Yeah.
But then it was kind of woven throughout with other things: hands-on activities, individual exploration, group exploration, projects that you worked on by yourself or with a group. You could do multimedia, you could do print. We left it pretty much to everybody to decide how they wanted to approach this. And gave them the paths.
There are a lot of projects. And also, I'm an OT is my background. Remember the time we made them move from station to station? And it wasn't until the end of the day they realized we didn't need to move from station to station. We had all the apps right on our iPad. Like, yeah, it was intentional just to get you moving.
Just movement. That's right. Exactly. We engineered that, and Jen comes as an OT. I'm an engineer by training, so I have that same kind of mentality. It's like, oh yeah, you need to move to this other table to work on your iPad. Then you need to move to that other table to work on your iPad on this. No, you don't, but it's okay. Get the movement in, get them connecting with each other.
Create some chatter along the way and sharing, and yeah, get a little kind of mindful moment as you move around, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I always think that, we're recording this in this time of people working from home, and that's probably the biggest thing I miss right now is those opportunities to be in a room with other people and just see where it goes. You have a plan of where it's going to go. The plan usually, and maybe it's just because I'm in the group, but it always derails and we go somewhere else. I think I might be responsible for most of that. But that's great.
We're both good at derailing, but we're also,
Yeah.
I think one of the things is looking for those authentic moments too.
Yeah.
When you're seeing some excitement and you're seeing a break with someone's like, share it up, everything all. Let's talk. Let's go down this tangent, but we still know the outline and the framework to make sure we're still hitting the points we need for those goals. And we just have to shift it around. It's a little movable. What was it called? Amorphous schedule or something?
Yes, there you go. And yeah, just kind of
It's
moves
sticky notes
around.
everything.
It's just, yeah, it's all over the place. And it weaves, it's kind of this idea of the day just kind of moving in and out. And you get to the end and you sit there and say, wow, we talked about a lot of stuff today. And we did a lot of stuff today.
And we uncovered everything we planned, just maybe not in exactly the way we planned it. And that's okay because we let them lead.
Yeah, which was awesome. And so Jen mentioned that we did blended and we put our classroom materials, which, like she said, we record everything, we share everything, and we put it up in multiple places for them. Again, where are you comfortable finding it? That's fine. It probably lives there, quite honestly.
And we'll email it and attach it too. Like sometimes, here it is. Sometimes you just can't find that link or where is it? And let's just make your life easier. We can push it out to you. It's okay. All of our executive function skills lately, especially, are all just get collapsing because there's too much underlying fight or flight going on right now too. So we'll support the effort. Yeah. And we had a big range of folks, all from pre-K to high school, gen ed, sped ed, a lot of different roles as educators, lots of administrators. I won't say lots. Significant amount of administrators for our group.
A good handful. Yeah. How about that? Yeah, a good handful. Which is great because it brings another perspective to the conversation. Absolutely. A different way of looking at it. And if we're talking about this idea of spreading the word and making change back at your organization, who better to have on your team that's sitting there with you than an administrator who might have the ability to do that when you go back?
And you know what else is good? We found out that's really good when we have the IT person too, who buys into this and then vets things and makes sure they're safe for student data and all that, and helps things move. Like, yep, you gotta make friends with the IT folks too. Don't pretend you can't, AT. We all have to come together. Bring them, Diet Coke and cookies. That's what always worked for me for bribery to get what I needed.
Bribe, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Don't be too proud. Is that our closing remark for the day? Don't be too proud. Just do whatever you have.
Get the work done.
Just get it done.
Oh, this is an outline of our the exact assignments that we did with everybody, and they've kind of continued with some shifts. But for this,
but not many though. I mean, when I look at this, Jen, is our first list of our first group.
Kind of still doing it.
Yeah, right up until this last group that just finished. This is what we did.
And for this first group, for season 1, we were really focused on data. Mm-hmm. And proving the efficacy so that we would get the grant again and continue to do that. So we really, I think we've talked about some of these too, but getting them really embedded in the quiet and set and UDL and what is AEM and creating with multimedia. Our first year, we actually took a really kind of dry white paper about assistive technology and we ATUDL'd it up. And broke all the rules of slide production, like we are today too with all our text.
But yeah.
The future. But have them really make it accessible, make it interesting, use some new tool to present the information in a different way other than text. And then with probably about 1,000 slides.
Yeah. Because this grant was given to us through that Department of Ed, that was one of the components that had to be part of what we did.
Yeah.
Make sure to make it flexible so people could make their way through it in the way that worked for them.
And you just brought up something that made me think, like, we had certain, because it was grant-based, we had certain constraints,
Mm-hmm.
requirements, things that had to be done. But I feel like our role, and we talk with teachers about this too, is like, as an educator, you have certain things you need to do. But actually, as a UDL, IRN folks, Jeff and Jamie, is that right? Who talk about chopped and like, you have these 4 ingredients, you have to do this.
Right.
That doesn't mean you still have access to the pantry, you still have access to your tools and experiences, that you still get to create something that doesn't have to be limiting.
Yeah.
If you're a designer, you're like, well, how do I make this work? And I feel like we really work well within the parameters that were laid on us to be like, oh, what can we do? How can we make this work? But stuff can come out of this. Those are the only things we can do. We can do more. So we did.
Yeah. There's nothing better when someone comes up to you in a course like this that's fairly long and fairly intense and a lot of moving parts, and someone comes up very excited and says, I want to do this. Is that okay? And I'm pretty sure to a person we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, do that. Sure. If that's what's important to you to move this learning forward, great. Yeah, do that. That's perfect. And that thing you just decided to do fits in here. And so we look where that fits into the overall goal of our project. But I can't think of a single time we said no to somebody if they came up with a choice.
What's better learning than to do something that you want to do, that's going to be helpful for you, that's going to make a difference in your community, in your classroom, for that one child, whatever it might be. I know for me, my assignments are always far more interesting when it isn't a whole bunch of things you need to check off, because I've built those skills. You're going to use them. Now, what do you want to do? Projects are so much better when you're not phoning it in and you're really committed to creating something.
Exactly. It's not a something I have to do. It's a something I want to do.
Yeah.
And then
can I do this too? And like, hey, I just told so-and-so they could do this. I'm like, is that okay? Of course it is.
Sure. I get very, very comfortable. I think I'm comfortable with that anyway, of just being like, sure. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. I like that. And, we talk about process a lot, but ultimately you want stuff too, right? And we even said, we like process, but I love stuff. I'm all for it. And so everyone in this first go round of the grant got their own toolkit. And that toolkit was pretty significant.
It was pretty powerful. There was a lot of stuff. And part of it, things have changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did we decide 4 or 5 years ago? Seems like a really long time ago. It wasn't, but things have changed with accessibility of devices, and more people having their own. But it was really important that they have their stuff, and we fought really hard. No, they need a Chromebook and an iPad. They can't just have one or the other. These are tools that are living in our classrooms right now, and they can work on different skills for different tasks. So it's really important. So we got a Chromebook and an iPad in a really cute little bag to carry it in, not the one that's pictured. That's where we put all the stuff in. Yeah. But we were able to get a lot of fun stuff and have like low tech make and take days, and the stuff mattered. And Mike, you're the master of getting free stuff to give away, so they get more stuff.
Sometimes all you got to do is ask the companies and say, hey, we're about to potentially put your item in front of 60 pairs of eyes that will then turn this around and put it in front of 600 other pairs of eyes. Wouldn't it be great if they could see your stuff? Wouldn't it be great if they could try your stuff and see the value of what you sell as they go back to their schools? And I think that was really critical. I think what's really nice about this is with the kit, this was something they had. It wasn't borrowing the iPad from the classroom that meant someone else didn't have it. It was theirs. They could explore and then take their learning and apply that to something else they might have had in their classroom, or that their students might have, or their district might have. And so we were very, very deliberate in this thought process here.
Yeah, and it certainly is some of our favorite tools, but so many other things we want to include too. And we tried lots of free tools too. But it was just really important that I just know over the years I was like, well, I couldn't explore it. I couldn't play with the device because it wasn't in my hands. I couldn't learn this tool. It's like that excuse is gone. You have it. It's yours,
Right.
and you get to explore.
Yeah. And not just high tech. The high tech's great, but we also gave them low tech stuff, and that's where the canvas bag comes in that's on the slide. Um, they got an entire bag full of stuff, low tech things. Everything from a pencil grip to reading guides to a mouse for their computer. All of those things, little things we could purchase, but they could have a toolkit they could then go and share with people they work with to try to meet the needs of students as they go forward with flexibility and simple low-tech supports.
And that's like just things too, like that you brought up the mouse. This brings up to meeting people where they are too.
Yeah.
There's lots of folks that didn't realize that you didn't have to use a trackpad, that there are alternate ways to access. And for a $5 USB mouse, they could be happy using their Chromebooks because they're not aware. You're not stuck with that. There may be other options internally in the system, but also external devices to make your life easier. So you're not fighting with your trackpad. If that doesn't work for you, that's okay.
And again, having it available. You're working with a student or an educator who says, I just can't do this. Great, well then try it this way. Here's your options. And it becomes part of your ever-growing toolkit. This could be the start of it, not the end, but the start of it. And it was really nice. We were really happy we were able to do that, to give them all something they could walk away with, to continue their learning as they went forward.
Yeah, we put a few things in their cupboard that they could continue to fill with their AT tools. Yeah. And we tried to be pretty impactful with some of the choices. It was really cool. Fun. They loved it. We did our whole Oprah giveaway day.
Yeah, who doesn't love a big giant bag of stuff being handed to you? That's great. And then ultimately we want to talk about results of how this went. What did we see at the end? Like Jen mentioned, this was a grant, and we had to do some of this. It was, of course, something we would have done as a best practice anyway, but we had to get this information from them about what did they see as they went through this as their results. Where was their growth? There was a pre-test. There was a post-test. They had to submit things that demonstrated their mastery of some of these things.
And they had to identify kind of their own goals to measure against at the end. Like, did you meet your goals? And we made the pre and post-test results visible to them so they could see their growth. It's like, I don't want the pre-test I want a pre-test for me. I do, so we can share this and replicate it. But I also wanted it for them to be like, look what you didn't know then and you know now, you did it. Yeah. And you can't be taken away. You're going to move forward with this new information and continue to share with others, hopefully with kindness and humor.
Yes, agreed, for sure. You know, and thinking about this and kind of breaking it down of where they were at, what did they walk away with knowing about assistive technology, about UDL, about tools, about processes? What did that look like? The continuum of tools. You know, it was very deliberate to give them a low-tech bag of stuff to remind them that not everything is about your iPad. Not everything's about a Chromebook. Something might be as simple as a different pencil, and that's your solution.
And also, if it's giving them permission, like, it's okay if you're still attached to your paper planner. It's okay if you're using sticky notes. Use what works for you. It's not all or nothing. You don't go 100% digital. Guess what we're learning? That doesn't work for everybody either. And that's not giving multiple means of representation or expression if everything is done digitally too.
Exactly. If you only give one choice, you're not giving options. That's the one thing you've given them. Yeah.
And this was what kind of exciting, the big thing, like 73% exceeded their personal goals for themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I love to see that. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that is talk about a takeaway and something that's very powerful as you look at it, of how they did. You know, it was just some of the questions that we ask. Do you know the IDEA definition of assistive tech? Does your school have a process to determine need for assistive tech? Do you know what UDL means? What are the three principles of UDL? And so this was just kind of where we're at, is what kind of information do you bring to this, and what can we hope that you will gain as we go through it?
And it's kind of sobering too, like just from our practices as consultants being in the classroom, where some folks think they are, and where folks actually are very different places. And I think some things fall flat. We don't acknowledge that and help them get through that. And usually for me, it's around the technology, being really uncomfortable. And it's also around not even knowing what AEM is. Never hearing that, saying, oh yeah, I know the UDL principles. But then the next question is, well, what are they?
Yes. Right.
Right.
I mean, look at that, as that goes from 54 to 23, from knowing what UDL means, but knowing the principles that make up UDL. So there's this disconnect of information.
Yeah, but you're implementing. So like getting to start thinking, and also in the next slide, we asked 20 questions. Was it 20? I think 20.
20, yeah, it was 20.
Basic things like, have you saved into a Google Drive? Have you ever installed an app? What percentage you knew about Chrome extensions? Pretty low. Yeah. Have you ever installed an extension? A quarter of the group had even heard of the Chrome extension. But by the end, they were actively using them. Everybody was actively using Chrome extensions. Yeah. And social media, half were using it. I was just
going to say that. Yeah, that was where I was going to.
I think there's a little fluff there. I'm not sure that's true, what they said.
Using it professionally. And again, that goes to this idea of constantly learning and building your network beyond the walls of your school. And do you do that? And when we started, 50% said they did. And yeah, okay, maybe, perhaps to some extent. But by the end, we had just about everybody.
And one of the cool things we did in a future iteration of this is we did Twitter with them, but we also did it with Zoom, so they could see what our tweet deck looked like. And we could talk and see each other and support them to help explain. And it made a lot of difference throwing them into like rapid fire AT chat on a Wednesday night. It really helped them get over the hump to say, oh, okay, I can learn. I don't have to posting. I can learn a lot of things and meet a lot of people and make connections and get support. So we started varying how we approach this to make sure that we weren't leaving anyone behind.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited with overall results.
Yeah, I think it was great. Yeah, for sure. I was very excited with the results. And what was even more exciting was the things that they said about how this went for them. These testimonials that they drop in. I'm just looking at some of them. This last one, this course has sparked a big interest in this field for me. So suddenly seeing what's out there and wanting to go and learn more, and find a way to keep expanding your knowledge and expertise.
And asking questions. We joked with the folks who are doing this. We chose small groups of 2 people per district. Like, you needed a partner. But when we're on this awareness level building, like, I want the early adopters and folks who are interested in and not have that weight of a much larger team that can't get together. It's like we're casting a really wide net with this initially, and then, see what they can build and how much support they need from the outside to continue to build their capacity. But I guess I want to start with folks who are interested in let's build up and then get these bigger teams involved. But you need to have really solid skills, I think, in the district to start with a little bit.
I think so too, for sure. Yeah. People had never heard of SET or Quiet, and now they're going to use them in their professional development plans for the next year. Someone's summer vacation was saved by assistive technology. That's very dramatic. I like that.
You know what that makes me think of is like future episodes or future seasons of this process. We just did it again this year. We did it a few years ago. We had a hiatus, which wasn't intentional. I'll just share, we had written this grant in multiple, I think 8 grants for cover 2 years that were accidentally not submitted.
Yeah.
By the admin, by not us. So all of you who have written grants, I'm sorry I just did that to you. You feel the pain, don't you?
I felt it. It came flooding back to me. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
so we had to go on hiatus. We offered it. We went through a paywall and did this version in a paid form. We were able to replicate it. We had to take a year off, and then we're able to reapply for the grant when it came around again. And now we're in the middle of it. However, in the midst of this, we're in the middle of COVID shutdowns. They're not funding the grant next year in Massachusetts, so we're going to have to think of a new way to do it. Once again, we'll figure a way.
It's going to be flexible.
We've still taken the show to other states, but
That's right.
We'll figure it out, and we'll still support you, Massachusetts, in some way. But one of some of the feedback in this current session, we're like, I would have never been ready to teach in this new remote learning environment without this class. And we ushered them through to the end of April. Their final projects became extra relevant because it was all things they needed immediately as their, Apollo 13, this whole mission to move education and supports online. And the outpouring of testimonials this current year were pretty powerful about what a difference it's made. And they are helping and supporting their colleagues now.
Yeah. They've become leaders in their schools because of the expertise they gained from doing this kind of hybrid learning experience. What was nice about testimonials, not just from educators, but the students they serve, we got testimonials from them too. Somebody liking school so much better because of the flexibility. I get to use technology. It reads to me, corrects words, makes it easier to see worksheets. How great is that? I mean, that's ultimately what we're all trying to do. And so the power of that is huge and can't be denied as such a valuable example of this kind of learning experience.
I love seeing the little ones using Book Creator.
I know, right? I agree.
So fun.
Awesome. Yeah, so cool. So as we wrap up, a couple things that we found from this experience that led to our success. I really do think it all starts and stops with the idea of the blended model of having flexibility built in. I think as we move through this COVID experience, we will see more and more blended things. I do think that'll happen. I think regardless of what happens in each of our places of where we live, as we move towards getting back to face-to-face things, I think there will always be some component of a blended experience, and thinking about how that works for people. I'm trying to think of another bullet that I want to highlight on this. Practical application. I think that's
Right.
When I go to something, I know personally as a learner, I want some kind of practical way to use what I'm learning. And so I hope that we were able to do that throughout this for people.
And that kind of regular sharing, discussion with peers, the ability to kind of create what the learning was going to be, was just really fun. I would say like one of the most kind of rewarding, hard, but really rewarding experiences professionally for me and personally for me to like get to do this with Mike and get to support these groups. It's really fun. Like, I literally look forward to doing it again and again. I'm like, yeah, I'll sign up. I have no time, but I'll do this one again. This is really great.
I think the same exact thing. I'm like, sure, I'll pile that onto my pile. I like it because it is fun. And that learning goes both ways. I mean, we start with a plan and we each walk away learning something from each group. Without a doubt, we learn a bunch of stuff from each group. So that is kind of exciting. And it led us to a book chapter.
Fancy.
There's my book. You got yours? I actually plucked it off my shelf. There it is. Fancy. We were able to write about this in a book called Universal Access Through Inclusive Instructional Design. And thinking about how people have applied the UDL principles into their philosophy for delivering inclusive instruction for all. This has been really exciting. I think it's a valuable way to change what professional development looks like. We've all been in bad professional development, and the goal should be to find ways to make professional development good for people so they enjoy it and ultimately learn. Well, look, I got Jen. She's not going to say anything else, I don't think.
I'm so touched. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, nice, right? and with that, everybody, we've come to the end. That's our stuff. That's what we did. as you look at this, as you guys explore it, please reach out. We would love to chat with you about this. So don't be a stranger. There's our Twitter handles. We're going to force you to be on Twitter, I guess, to talk to you, and that's okay too. Our contact information, I'm sure, is on the materials that you have. But reach out in any way. We'd love to chat about this. We are very passionate about this project. It has been, like Jen said, one of the most exciting things I've done in a very, very long time. And so we'd love to chat about this, thinking about ways you could maybe do this for yourself or for the people you work with and support.
Yeah, happy to. Like, thank you so much. I'm so glad we get another forum to spread the word with the UDL IRN, and they're conceiving of new ways to share this information. So glad we can do this. Great to rehash this.
Without a doubt, yeah. A pleasing rehash of something. Yes, of course. Yes, definitely. And enjoy the conference, whether you watch the synchronous or the asynchronous learning. I'm sure there's going to be a ton to go through. So enjoy
Yeah,
and look forward to connecting.
looking forward to it. Take care, everyone.
All right, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.